Welcome to Alchemy Uncensored, a podcast presented by Alchemy Search, a team of professional financial and tax recruiters. Our podcast is dedicated to providing valuable insights into the financial and tax sector of the UAE by discussing the challenges and opportunities faced by employers and job seekers. Alchemy Uncensored is the perfect podcast for those looking to gain a competitive edge in the finance, accounting and tax industry of the UAE. Stay informed on the latest job market trends, developments and conversations to stay ahead of the game. Tune into our podcast to be part of this insightful conversation.
I'm Weam Kamel, principal at Alchemy Search, the only finance and tax experts in the UAE. And I'm joined today by Obediah Ayton, or Obi, one of the most prominent voices in Abu Dhabi, currently running various businesses in the capital city. With experience in many top financial centers around the world, like New York and London, Obeda has seen Abu Dhabi rise to the top. Obi is known for his influential posts, especially on LinkedIn, driving the growth of Abu Dhabi forwards. Though unconventional, his content has made many consider the capital as a new home. He is known as the UAE top 50 most connected, with service lines across capital raising, licensing, distribution, government contracts, and joint ventures. He's a tech geek, business owner, golfer, and a massive advocate to the Abu Dhabi government. Obi, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. No, it sounded pretty good.
Yeah, how do you feel when you hear that, like all that intro about you?
It's, I think I'm taking it bit by bit because it's like I've still got so much I want to do.
Yeah.
And I think my personal hobbies kind of says a lot about me, but in the business world, it's so hard because online you want to look busy, you want to look active, but at the same time, somebody who's so busy isn't always an organised and influential person because you're running around town and things like that. But it's quite interesting hearing that.
Yeah, entrepreneur and organised don't always go together. So
no, and also business owner. I mean, it's something that I've always kind of done. I've being an employee, I've kind of forgotten what that was like. Am I employable? I don't know anymore. And so I'm kind of
never go back.
No, exactly. But no, thanks for having me.
Honestly speaking, though, I was really excited when you got back to me and you said, I'll do this. Like, I'll do the podcast, because obviously I was following all your content on LinkedIn. It was very helpful. I thought it was amazing because I think you and me share the same kind of vision that Abu Dhabi is an exciting place. There's a lot that's happening there. It's a great ecosystem for business. And I think that you shared a lot of information on, how to successfully kind of crack it and, all the exciting things as well. So, I was really excited. And so I'm really happy. So with that, then, with this episode, I hope we can give people a little bit more insight about, what's going on in Abu Dhabi, because there's a lot of information out there, or maybe actually there's lack of information out there about what's actually happening in Abu Dhabi. So we'll hopefully give people a little bit more insight on that. So with that, then let's just jump straight in and just tell me how did it start? Like, how did you even end up in Abu Dhabi or UAE, let's just say?
Well, I'm kind of lucky because obviously Obediah, my mother would call me, and I first came to the UAE and somebody goes, Obeda, and I'm just like, quick on Google, like, what's this? What does this mean? Yeah. So in a way, I was kind of accepted the first day I got there in business because an Emirati gentleman called me by that name. But what drew me out to the country initially is I studied in America. I lived the American dream. I was in New York, a good place to be. And I worked there after university, and being a very stubborn young guy in New York, I didn't realize how hard it was to get a visa in America. So I left it till the last minute and then realized, I've got to go back home now to England. So I went back home to England. So I left my job. I worked for a guy. I used to carry a golf bag at the weekend. So golf has always been a part of me, and it's always been great for networking. It got me my early jobs. And so I went back to England, and I'm sitting there trying to get my visa through the government portals, and it just wasn't happening. I mean, there were blockers. I studied to be an accountant. So the immigration lawyer was like, there's plenty of accountants in America, so we don't really need any more right now. So what makes you different? So I'm there trying to get sponsors, references, everything. Wasn't working. Got a job at a golf course, again caddying. I worked at a bar at the weekend. So I went from working in a very glamorous New York office for some very ultra high net worth to then going back to caddying, carrying a golf bag and working at a bar at the weekend. So I went, right, let's pull myself together. Nothing really came. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I met another guy on a golf course carrying his bag. And I started talking about esports and computer games. I mean, you read in my bio that I like playing computer games. I'm very proud to say that I do, right? And then I started talking about film distribution platforms. This was in like 2015, 2016. And I didn't see him for like 3 months. And he called me up and said, I was at the gym. I remember I was on the treadmill and he goes, hello. And I'm like, who's this? He's like, it's Robin. And I'm like, who's Robin? Who's this guy? And he goes, he used to carry my golf bag. He started talking about esports and films and all this type of stuff. And he said, I want you to come to my office. And I was just like, why does this guy want me? Because I knew his company, because I remember meeting him, it was like full of like Goldman Sachs bankers, super qualified people. Right. I went to his office and he said, we want to start investing in these industries. And I want you to tell all these guys why. And that was literally it. So I started working in London because I met another guy on a golf course and I spoke about computer games.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my part of London and New York. I worked for him, saw amazing things. Like they bought football teams, they bought fashion brands, tech platforms while I was there.
Yeah.
I was very much an observer. I worked as like an analyst, investment analyst, just watched everything, bit of an accountant.
Yeah.
And then he said, I'm retiring. He's going to get a PhD. And I was just like, well, I best look elsewhere.
Yeah.
Hello, Dubai. Right.
Did you go to another golf course?
No. Being an accountant, I knew you don't pay tax. Yeah. I had no commitments back home. My family was somewhat entrepreneurial. So it was kind of like, if you've got something in your mind, just get up and do it and see how it goes. So pretty much jumped on a plane to Dubai in 2018, started like understanding it a bit more, realized that I wanted to kind of do a bit more here. I saw the bright lights of Dubai, which everybody does when they fly into the airport. And that kind of hit me. I saw Sheikh Zayed Road. I never forget the first day I saw it. The Museum of the Future was half built. Yeah. And like anybody coming into this country as a young guy, I was like, wow, this is like a new world to me. So that's what pulled me in. And I won't bore you with, I mean, we'll be nearly 6 years on. From there, that was kind of what brought me in. It was really just the tax. I'd heard things about Dubai through guys in London. I had a Qatari investment manager, which is another one. He taught me a lot about the Middle East as a whole. And I kind of just went there for one trip. I went to a conference. It was like one of the government congresses around foreign direct investment. Yeah. And I just went, this is amazing. So I kept going back. And then kind of late 2018, I made the move. And never looked back since.
Like, did the expectations that you had before you came to Dubai, were they met? Or was it like, you had no expectations? I don't know. Like, how did you feel? Was it like, this is better than what I thought? Or you're still here, obviously. So clearly something really did draw you in. But what was your expectations beforehand?
My expectations were, it was a new platform that I'd heard of. Everyone's spoken about Singapore. Everyone's spoken about Hong Kong, London, New York.
Sydney.
I'd done London and New York, which are kind of like the top 5 capitals. So I was like, okay, I've tried Dubai, but something stuck in my brain where I was just like, I see this as still growing and it's growing fast. And like, when I was going initially, I fly back and then a building was like half built and then it had built like another 10 stories in like 2 months. So kind of like you see things moving fast. I felt like the New York energy of fast pace. Cab drivers are running all through the night. So there's a lot of energy. And I think it was just kind of like the expectations of, of course you see the Amars and the big names, but I felt as if there was an opportunity to have a chance, like a chance to grow faster, a chance to have a bigger name. And of course we have leaders here. But in the private sector, I felt as if there was a lot of opportunity. You know, there were brands around, you know, presented on buildings. You got Talabat drivers. Kareem was kind of early days.
Yeah.
So I saw, being in New York and London, I saw there was huge potential. So I kind of just went, okay, let's stick it out here.
Yeah.
I see an upside. I've heard lots of things, like everybody does, that the Middle East has money that they get from oil. And I felt as if it was a good place to start something and give it a go.
Yeah. 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 I mean, like, yeah, that's, you know, I think those expectations definitely, you know, it is what ended up growing and growing. And I think the region ended up building on that more and more. So you were here then, you know, you were a numbers guy. You were always a numbers guy. You were here since 2018, you know, so we're 2023. So it's been some time now. Obviously you came just before
Pandemic.
COVID. What a time.
It was okay.
Yeah, true. Actually, in the UAE, it was okay. It was okay.
Everybody decided to come to Dubai after the pandemic.
Yeah.
To me, it changed a lot.
Yeah.
I had everybody, like, I felt as if I was a little bit of an early mover. Like, some people had gone to Dubai. I kind of made that like permanent early move.
Yeah.
And then everybody kind of did that permanent move end of 2020, 21, because the rest of the world was, you know, not a pleasant place. They were on lockdowns, people losing jobs, people just bored.
Yeah.
And again, the bright lights of Dubai were still bright. Things were still moving.
If not brighter during COVID times, because everywhere else was just, I think how the rest of the world dealt with it, just made the UAE just generally look like probably more Dubai than Abu Dhabi at the time, because they were quite strict.
At this point, Abu Dhabi wasn't even part of my agenda.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which kind of leads on to why it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. So during COVID then, can you tell me about, you know, everything that's happened, you know, Abu Dhabi? I think you told me a few really interesting stories about sort of how the whole content development started, because you do quite a few things. I mean, you run quite a few businesses that do different stuff. Yeah. As a numbers guy, obviously that helps you a lot as well. But tell me how all of that came about, especially the whole thing moving into Abu Dhabi. Like, why Abu Dhabi? What's, you know, how did that happen for you?
So, companies. I decided to launch like 2 at the same time, which wasn't a good idea. So I went into marketing, I went into accounting, I then did an events company, which was amazing, but it took up so much time. So I felt as if I ran around like a headless chicken for the first 2 years, just meeting everyone.
Yeah. This was before COVID.
Yeah, before COVID, right?
Yeah.
And then when COVID hit, it was really like the rest of the world started to quiet. So when they heard that Dubai was open, from a business sense, I launched then this finance arm where I started to raise cash for like foreign companies, because I wanted more liquidity for me to then give to my companies. So rather than raising money for my companies and diluting them, I thought, okay, well, let's make other people's dreams come true.
Yeah.
I also wanted to build a transaction history in the UAE and then see how it goes. So 2020, I started to raise a bit of cash for other companies, build a CV there, both overseas and locally. And then in background, I'm partnered with, you know, the operators. So I'm not like day to day, I don't need to be there. Marketing, I'm not the editor.
Yeah.
I come up with some crazy ideas and I'm good at like origination, but at the end of the day, they're the guys who are they're good at what they do. They do the edits. Same with accounting. So moving on from that, today, those companies are doing fine. They're not ginormous. If I probably put a bit more time and effort into one of them, it would be bigger, but you know, it's a bit late now.
Yeah.
And the Abu Dhabi move. Now, Dubai for me, I call it the consumer market, the B2C place. If you have a brand, if you have a restaurant, it's going to be consumed. It's fast paced, population's filling up, everyone's excited to spend money there. So let's talk about how other people will perceive Dubai. So back home, you now see Dubai as an amazing place to come live and work.
Yeah.
Which it is. However, Abu Dhabi is where all the big banks are, the main kind of policy rights of the government, the big energy companies, the big everything. So from a business sense, from a job perspective, actually Abu Dhabi is underlooked, but it's actually where a lot of the decisions are made. So surely you want to be closer to where the decisions are made. So I'm like sitting in Dubai thinking, I want to try this place called Abu Dhabi. So I met a guy from Tawazun, which is the defense arm of Abu Dhabi. Don't know why. Emirati gentleman. We went to Jones Cafe, the Jones whatever.
Jones the grocer.
Jones the grocer, that's it. Had a panini.
Yeah.
I sat with him and I met with him, and he said to me, the first thing he said to me, why did you make it such a big deal that you were coming to Abu Dhabi? And I'm like, it's my first time. And he's like, you felt, he said, our communication of you organising this meeting was like you're going on holiday. He was like, I'm coming down there, I've got my COVID PCR test, I'll be there at that time.
Set.
Where do I park? I'm all set. Exactly. And he wet himself. He couldn't believe.
I've packed my bag, my laptop, my document.
He couldn't believe how much of a big deal. And I said, this is a big deal for me. I've heard stories about Abu Dhabi being this, very like more strict version of Dubai. At that time it was because of COVID, like you had to PCR check every building you went into. Yeah. Oh my God. So my first experience of going to Abu Dhabi was like, wow, this is quite a strict place.
Yeah.
I want to do more here. So speeding up a bit, I started to play around. I did meetings in Abu Dhabi, like that, face to face. Trying to knocking people's doors on LinkedIn saying, let's meet. I want to talk about Dhabi. I had no idea what I wanted to do in Abu Dhabi. And this was my first mistake. It's kind of, I went there just to meet and greet, and kind of Abu Dhabi are like, when you get that chance to meet somebody in Abu Dhabi, it's quite a big opportunity. And sometimes I didn't maximize that day one. So looking back, what I'll do different is when I went to Abu Dhabi is kind of having that clear vision of what you want to do there. So moving on, decided to get an office in ADGM because it was what everyone was doing.
Yeah.
ADGM's got a beautiful square. I'm sitting out looking at the square thinking, how do I make more of a name for myself here? Because at this point I've got small companies. I'm like,
yeah, how can I get seen?
How can I get seen in a quite a tough place where Abu Dhabi is so reserved compared to Dubai. Dubai's like, get out there, show me what you got.
Yeah.
Abu Dhabi is the complete opposite. It's like, I'm going to stay indoors, come to me. And it's just not really about showing me what you have, how good you are. It's just, they move.
Yeah.
And they move in their own pace. Decisions get made, but in their own time. So I was like, okay. So the coffee capsules that we have for our coffee machines, there's a cardboard box. I ripped it open. And I saw that dude with sign guy from New York. And I wrote on it. I went to ADGM Square and I held up this sign. And I said, where are all the founders? I didn't say startup. I said, where are all the founders? I've got term sheets to sign. At that time, I partnered with a VC firm. And oh my God, I posted it. Within 2 minutes, I had ADGM marketing officer call me. We need you to change the wording now. And I went, okay. And I said founders. So he said, you need to make it clear that you're saying startup founders, right? Not founding members of the country. Because you have this line where you don't cross here about protesting, right? We all respect the culture here. So I really went close to that line to get, known. So I had then Abu Dhabi Media Office contact me. They were all like, not telling me to take it down, but just like, it was uncomfortable for them.
Yeah.
But then they were just like, actually leave it for 5 minutes. Because they saw it like going up and up and up. Then ADGM's chairman's office calls me. We want you to meet the chairman tomorrow. I was just like, brilliant. Here's my ticket out of Abu Dhabi.
Way to go to be seen. It's like...
Yeah.
It's exactly what you wanted to happen.
But I wasn't stupid. It was timing. Abu Dhabi, we had new leadership under His Excellency Ahmed Jassim Al-Zarbi, who was like the young guy to come in and change ADGM. The IFC had all their fun, Dubai had all their fun. Now it was Abu Dhabi's turn in 21.
Yeah.
Post-pandemic, they were just they waited for the PCR stuff to stop, and they were like, right, now we're going to attract the businesses. We're going to let the crypto exchanges come in. We're going to let all these amazing technologies come in, which before they were very corporate and reserved. So I was quite clever in terms of timing.
Yeah.
I wasn't stupid. I didn't just go out there to do it on a whim. Yeah. I kind of thought the timing was right.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I'd been doing back and forth with Abu Dhabi for about 6 to 8 months. So it was like, when was the time right? And it was March 2021. I walk into the chairman's office the next day. He's sitting there, very quietly, and he's looking at me with a very serious face. And the first time I'd seen Ahmed Jassim, and he goes, sit down. And I'm just like, I'm there like shaking a bit.
What's going to happen to me?
And he then goes, I like your post. And I went, right, deep breath.
Okay.
And I went, thank you very much. I just went, brilliant. This is great.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like cheering.
Yeah.
So that's the story of kind of the first bit. I mean, at that point, I had
love this story.
20,000 followers on LinkedIn. And what was that, 21 March? And now I'm at 72 or something.
Yeah.
Pretty much 2 years later.
I really love this story for a few reasons. First, it's just that how Abu Dhabi was so open and welcoming to something that maybe in the very beginning they were like, I don't know. But then after it's like, okay, this is getting some traction. This is good. We want people to get more encouraged to talk about Abu Dhabi or be more in 100%. Abu Dhabi. So that was amazing. And I think it was just the opening series of a lot of the content that you do, which I'm a very big fan of. And actually, anybody that's listening to this right now, if you don't already, follow Obeda on LinkedIn, because you're not going to be disappointed. I laugh at a lot of these posts, and they're quite good. And I think that's what it's created. It's created kind of like people thinking, well, it's a good place to be, and these are all the positive things that are happening. And that's why I really love that story, because it really shows how everything started. So, and then since then, so this is 2021 up until now, how did you see Abu Dhabi move and change and progress? Like, if there were few key areas that you see that have changed since then until now?
It's changed a lot. And I guess from my story, it was like, as you said, Abu Dhabi decided that they want to promote Abu Dhabi. And maybe I got lucky. I was naive. Like, at the end of the day, I'm sitting here telling you I knew what I was doing. That could have been a risk that went the other way.
Yeah.
But I took the risk and it paid off. And here we are today.
Yeah.
So Abu Dhabi changed, and it is changing. They've let Dubai be a test case to say, tourism, business, let's see how it goes. Now Abu Dhabi is saying, we have the resources. Now let's do it ourselves.
Yeah.
What's changed in Abu Dhabi? More international big names are moving to Abu Dhabi. Big names. Why are they not moving to Dubai? Because Abu Dhabi has the sovereign resources. Everybody in the business world likes to be next to money.
Yeah.
They always have, and they always will. We don't work to smile. We work to make money at the end of the day. That's why we get up and go to work.
Yeah.
So we're seeing all these amazing brands come, which brings over the talent. The salaries are starting to go through the roof. So it's hard not to come to Abu Dhabi. I met this guy who reached out to me years ago on LinkedIn. He just wanted to meet me because he'd been reading some of the posts. He said, because of you, I decided to reach out to ADNOC, and I got 3 times my salary while I was getting paid in America. Literally because I was reading your post, and I said, okay, I'm going to test for ADNOC. He was in the PE world in maritime. So I think he's now in the PE team for buying tankers and ships for ADNOC.
Yeah.
And he's now super happy.
Yeah.
okay, you're coming from America to a desert. Doesn't sound that attractive. But when you come there, and now Abu Dhabi's changing, before it was a bit lifeless, everybody knows that. Dubai was where the life is. It's where all, like, you know, the music's played, and the cars are driving around late at night. And Abu Dhabi may not ever be that, but you don't really want it to be that. You want it to be a good work environment. And the evening life is getting better. There's lots of attractions to do for families now. So I'd say Abu Dhabi made more of an effort to kind of finish the package for people to move there.
Yeah.
When before, I mean, they know this. It was boring. It was a very, like, building by building. Every building has like a government sector in it where it's very compliant, very stiff. And now they're just not being too, like, open arms like Dubai is, but they're just creating a better business culture. And obviously with that, I think it came from all these international companies coming in and seeing Abu Dhabi as a credible jurisdiction, which is something that, it's not that they didn't have before, but no, they didn't have it before.
Yeah. I mean, I was born in Abu Dhabi, so I've seen it at a time or from a lens that is very different to now. And I think that, you know, over the last 5 years, I've been in Dubai, you know, after coming back from abroad. And just recently this year, I've been spending a lot of time in Abu Dhabi. And to be honest, I'm loving it because I think that the infrastructure there is so great, so well thought of. You know, the streets, how everything lead to one another. I really like that. I think it's just the ecosystem there is also incredible. I mean, I see a lot more, even from me, from a recruitment perspective, I see a lot more contacts in our network now making that move to Abu Dhabi, partly yes, salary, but partly also life. People used to come to Dubai straight away because Abu Dhabi still didn't have that lifestyle that you could get in Dubai. So it was so quiet, but now it's, you know, it's coming up, and people, you know, more international people are going there. There's so many expats there. I was so surprised with that, while still, you know, they are still preserving the local talent, the local Emirati face of businesses. So you can see that, but at the back end of it, there's also expats. So it's like such a nice balance. Whereas I feel like in Dubai, it's very much expat driven. It's massively expat driven. So it's very different in that sense. You know, from your side then, like, what do you see from, you know, industries, demographics, just the environment in Abu Dhabi? Like, what do you see? I mean, you said a lot of private companies, but what type of companies? You know, what do you see in the market there? Now,
talking about recruitment, I think also for Abu Dhabi businesses, everybody keeps talking about high salaries, which a lot of companies need to be wary of, because high salaries means that you may get a lot of inquiries for a high salary. Now, a business environment, you also need a good candidate who's going to sit there and grow and have that kind of graft, see the opportunity and see the long-term vision that, like, I had. I didn't get attracted here by a big salary. I got attracted here because I saw the potential of the country. And when you look at the potential of the country, what the government's doing, you really do see that long-term vision. So I think I have met a lot of people who've come here for a big salary, hung around for a couple of years and then left. And I think this is where Dubai have gone through that cycle, and Abu Dhabi do have to be careful, because you're coming in, you're spending all that money. Abu Dhabi also spending a lot of money. You get the rebate program that Abu Dhabi Investment Office do. They're like rebating up to like 70% of operating costs for businesses if they move their whole operations to Abu Dhabi. It's like outrageous. So they're offering these big salaries, which of course is going to attract people. Families for double. Look at that guy I told you about, Adnoc. Of course you're going to move for 2-3 times your salary. So you have to be careful, because you're going to get those people who are coming up with a big shiny CV. And for someone like me, a big shiny CV doesn't always justify the eager, I guess, woefulness to work and stick it out and go through the tough times, all these types of things. But moving on to the industries, what am I seeing in Abu Dhabi? Wealth management, you're next to the sovereigns. Sovereigns are making a lot of money. You've got ADNOC doing very well. The region's done very well in terms of hospitality and other industries. Anything to do with commodities and industrials, they've done well. So I'd say they have a good sovereign war chest. So wealth managers from around the world are coming to Abu Dhabi. Hedge funds are fairly new. They're starting to appear. The Ray Dalio came, Mr. Hedge Fund, and probably the most well-respected hedge fund manager on the planet. He's brought a huge team with him. They're hiring local talent. They're growing the team. Accounting firms, because we've obviously got corporation tax.
Yeah.
I think we haven't yet hit the peak of opportunity in corporation tax because the first financial year is not till 25. So I would say next year is more relevant for corporation tax. Everyone has to get themselves together. Yeah. Otherwise, this country will fine you if you miss deadlines. So accounting, finance, we're seeing interesting sectors like agriculture, biotechnologies, G42 in Abu Dhabi. They just launched M42, which is kind of like their medical arm where they're doing a lot around diabetes, genome therapy. So we're seeing industries like we'd never seen before. Like Abu Dhabi was like banks, government,
and
sovereigns, and energy. Now we're seeing agriculture, biotechnologies, different types of medical industries. We're seeing development shops, cybersecurity. So it's becoming diverse like Dubai. The good thing is with Abu Dhabi is I feel as if because you have more resources around you, you can make a bigger company in Abu Dhabi, which means there is you can see more of the future and there's a longer term thinking. So I would say that's why I would select Abu Dhabi now over Dubai. Dubai to me sometimes feels a little bit short term.
Yeah.
Rented Lamborghinis everywhere. I'm not discouraging Dubai. I love it for what it is. But from a long-term employee standpoint and also business owner like myself, I see Abu Dhabi as kind of going through this early cycle of what Dubai did.
Yeah.
But it has more resources.
Yeah. And maybe also the chance to go in a direction where Dubai didn't. Like, for example, I can also say that from a candidate standpoint, I mean, yes, I know, you mentioned about salaries, we talked about that as well, but I feel like Abu Dhabi would pay the salary higher just to people that actually do deserve it. Like, competition is high. The type of people that are in Abu Dhabi, that are working in Abu Dhabi, they're top tier. And top tier deserves top salaries. It's not easy to get a job there. It's not easy to even crack that market. And I think that, you've touched on a few points that I think are extremely valuable. You talked about knowing what you want. In Abu Dhabi, you've got to know what you want. You cannot be all over the place. Not to say that in Dubai you can be, but in Abu Dhabi, if you're, for example, a corporate finance guy, doing investments, etc., and your area of expertise is tech, you need to know what you're going after. You cannot just sit there and be like, well, I'm going to just do everything in a way. So I think that was, really valuable for people to know, because in Abu Dhabi, these things do matter. You need to be very specific and, what you're going after. I think you mentioned something around track record. And, I get asked this all the time in Abu Dhabi. I could get a meeting and sit in front of a person in Abu Dhabi, whatever, one of the biggest players there. And one question will always be there, which is, who else have you worked for here? Because they need to know that you know what's going on in Abu Dhabi. They need to know that you can deliver on it. They need to know that, you've got that track record or trust. They can trust you, right? And I think even, for candidates coming out here in the region, that is a question that you'll get asked a lot, because have you worked before in Abu Dhabi? Do you know how things work here? And I think that that's something candidates will start building up, because the talent pool is starting to build up in Abu Dhabi slowly. So I think all of these things are very, very, very important. and even like industry wise, whilst like, yeah, it is getting diversified, I feel like the majority of it has been tech focused, very tech focused, agriculture, like you said, agri-tech, mix it together. That's, you know, ideal. That's Abu Dhabi because it's so, you know, sustainability is at the core of it. The future of what's, you know, coming in Abu Dhabi, you know, that's at the core of it. And I feel like they have an opportunity to kind of drive that. Where, you know, from learning from Dubai, like you said. So it was like kind of like testing it, how it would work. So it's definitely, you know, an exciting place. What else do you think that Abu Dhabi has? Not necessarily that Dubai doesn't have, but what else do you think that is like really something that is going to make more and more people come here? I mean, we're seeing all this activity with venture capital, hedge funds, etc., which we've never, to be fair, we've not seen that as much as I think in the last 12 months. In the last, well, it's been crazy. I mean, the amount of firms reaching out to us to recruit for them and do a lot of work for them that are based in Abu Dhabi. And, you know, what do you see attracting now in the future? Let's say in the next 1 to 2 years, people coming to Abu Dhabi, what's that going to look like and why are they going to come to Abu Dhabi?
I'm trying to think what sold me and what is still selling me.
Yeah.
Because I make it very clear that my personal brand is Abu Dhabi. And I've never really sat and thought about why I'm driving the Abu Dhabi agenda so hard. Now, it's more because I see the effort from the SMEs, the startups. They're really grinding to get the attention of the big guys. And there was always a gap in Abu Dhabi. You have the big guys and you have the small guys. There's no middle ground. They weren't talking. If you go a startup and you knock on the door of Obeda and you're like, I'm raising venture capital, and they're like, well, sorry, we only do private equity and our check size is 100 million. So in Abu Dhabi, you're like, well, why am I here? So this is why a lot of companies left Abu Dhabi in the early days, because it was too big. You only do big stuff in Abu Dhabi because everybody around you liked the big stuff.
Yeah.
So what's happened now, and why a load of people moved to Abu Dhabi, is there is a middle ground. There's now bridges between both. The big guys are now setting up different entities. Like G42, I call it the AI arm of Abu Dhabi, has now launched M42, Injazat. Injazat's their smart city arm. So you have all of these big institutions now branching out. Etisalat, Eand, they rebranded. Why? Because they wanted to be seen as a holding company. They've gone into Eand Money, Eand Enterprise, Eand Capital. So all these big groups are now breaking up into small businesses, which means that there's now a connection from the big to the small. So we should see more human liquidity. We should see more actual money being moved from the top through the different processes, through the different mandates to the small businesses. Now we have an economy that is moving. It's not just Abu Dhabi. We invest in infrastructure around the world through Adia and Mubadala. We're now investing locally in our people, our workforce, expertise. We're competing for talent. You had one of the top VCs from Silicon Valley said that he was in ADGM 4 seasons. He did this on a tweet. And he said, I stayed in 4 seasons and I went downstairs. You've been there, you know, in the 4 seasons in ADGM. And it's hard to get a seat now.
Yeah.
And he said, I went in there and you meet everybody there that you know. So it's like, he referenced, it's like a new birth of Silicon Valley. Now, you can take that with a pinch of salt, but I know what he means, because you're bumping into the ecosystem. So you've now got this ecosystem that are seeing each other a lot. You're seeing more people get money from the big guys. You're seeing, as I said, these middle groups merge. ADNOC is now breaking into different asset management divisions, all of the above. And like, I have sat with the Department of Economic Development, the SME sector, trying to think about how do we help the small business owner. We've now got the first digital bank. I know this sounds very old to Europe, but it's true. We've got our first digital bank called Weo, right? Yeah. Incredible. You can actually open up a business bank account within a matter of days, which was something that was impossible for anybody a couple of years ago. So we're seeing constant improvement. And again, I think the nail on the head here is corporation tax. Who would have thought? Me coming to this country, a lot of my incentive was not paying tax, but tax is a good thing because Abu Dhabi now is seen as a credible jurisdiction for foreign direct investment, because money that comes into the country is going to be seen as transparent because it is submitted to the local regulator and people are paying taxes. So there's more transparency on the whole country's books. That hasn't been done before. Yeah. So if I'm a mid-sized company raising venture capital or private equity, for the first time ever in Abu Dhabi, I'm actually quite attractive to New York. Most of the time, for the last few years, New York, if you say I'm registered in Abu Dhabi, they're like, we don't really have a mandate for MENA region. Yeah. And you're like, oh, well, I've just spent all this money in ADGM. Yeah. Now, what's changed is that completely. They have now created a mandate, mainly because they see the Ray Dalios move to Abu Dhabi, credibility number one. Number two is because the whole country is now submitting books, it means that if I invest in this real estate property, I know that they are compliant, they're paying taxes, and money in, money out is transparent. Yeah. So I know my money in and my money out, coming out, I'm going to have no problems. So that is what is changing the UAE, and specifically Abu Dhabi, because it's the capital, as a good hub to be. And to finish it off, we are geopolitically neutral. India doesn't talk to China. We talk to both of them. Yeah. Have no issues. Yep. Right? America has issues with China, has for years. Yeah. We got no issues with either of them. Yeah. Oh, we're a UAE company. Okay. Like, even in itself, you're like, oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah. I speak to guys from New York every day, and they're like, oh, we might come to the UAE. We've heard all these nice things about it. Yeah. And it wasn't that they spoke negatively. It's just they didn't see it as, they just saw it as oil. Yeah. That's the honest truth. That's changing, though. That's changing dramatically. I mean, I agree so much about this ecosystem that's being created, but what you just mentioned, because I feel it. We are a startup business. We are not a big recruitment company with head offices in London, or New York or whatever. We are head office in the UAE. That's, we're a startup business, and we can feel that a lot of our clients are a lot more open now to share with us business. I actually feel in Abu Dhabi they are more inclined to use smaller recruitment agencies and smaller startups. It's almost like giving back. I mean, I've been now, like I said, going to Abu Dhabi this year, and I always ask anybody that I meet about my competition, right? Like, who's out there, what's happening out there. And to be honest, all I hear is small companies. None of them are really one of the big guys. Yes, okay, they will always exist there, but I can see that I think I can see that effort in trying to build that ecosystem there in Abu Dhabi and try to give back to the little guys, and I think give back into the country as well, to the companies that are starting up here. So I can definitely feel that, and I think that is definitely going to get more and more people coming into Abu Dhabi, and I think a lot more people are going to start moving here, and it's very exciting times. Let's talk about small business owners, right? And touching on your point, is this culture is very personable. They like to meet you. It's like it's a way of their business introduction. Yeah. They just want
Arabic coffee? Do you want some Arabic coffee?
They want to spend time with you, and I love that. Yeah. Right, I have a big family back in England, and I miss them a lot, and I feel as if, like, in the business culture, they kind of treat you as like a potential future family member. Yeah. It's like you're being interviewed to marry into the family. And the smaller businesses don't treat them like a number on a spreadsheet. They treat them like people. Yeah. So I think the smaller businesses do well here. I know this for a fact. right? I have 4 small businesses, and we've won some pretty big stuff for a small business that we would not do in London at all. Then they would turn their nose up with me straight away.
Yeah.
Who's this, young English boy? No, we don't need you. We want this guy who's got a huge track record of working with all the big names.
Yeah.
But because we're not treating them like a number on a spreadsheet, because we're making an effort to be there, they're seeing the hustle on the ground. Right? Yeah. I'm one person who really shows that hustle on the ground. I mean, I show up every week on LinkedIn to give free information, literally all the answers to the SMEs. Now, I try and give a little bit of value to the big guys, but at the end of the day, I'm trying to actually show the big guys that there's a lot of life in Abu Dhabi in the small SME sector. And that kind of then backfired in a good way for me, because a lot of the big guys said, thanks for the effort that you're doing for the small businesses in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And I can't really say anything yet, but this one guy messaged me 4 weeks ago and said, I raised $2 million because I read your post. I reached out to one of the groups that you listed. I followed your steps, and I raised $2 million from a UAE VC.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sitting there going, okay, what I speak is actually not nonsense.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time it's
works,
like, I'm still young. I haven't experienced everything. I'm not an expert, and I don't express my opinion. I try and give people stuff that I've learned, or just free stuff.
Yeah.
I think LinkedIn, I've tried to stay very on the line, because as soon as, you know what social media is like, as soon as you express your opinion, you get the yeses and the nos.
Yeah.
And you're never going to please anyone. Even what I do, I still don't.
You can't please
everyone. For some reason, I don't please anyone, even though I'm giving you all the answers.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've learned that through the years. But my point is, going back to being a small business owner and why it actually works in this country, it's because it's that going back to the basics of human. It's like the human hustle. They appreciate it when you show up, when you're there, you're present.
Agreed, yeah.
Some days I don't want to do a LinkedIn post. It's just, it drains me after a long day.
Yeah.
But I know if I do not show up 2 or 3 times a week with valuable original content, that it may affect my future plans, and it may show. I want to keep it up. I want to keep going to show that Abu Dhabi, I'm serious. I'm not pulling out of this. I'm going. And I think someone like yourself, it's like, that's what us small business owners do. Is we hustle. We want to get it. We want to grow our company. So we're not going to give up. Yeah. And the big guys, hey,
they'll always be there.
They'll always be there.
Yeah. And I think this is what's so exciting. So look, I think that was really, really, really helpful for a lot of people to understand. I think we painted quite a good picture about what's happening in Abu Dhabi. I think that's just surface level, though. I think there's a lot more that's going on, and we could even maybe do another one, but another podcast to go into more details, etc. Because I think that, that's just surface level stuff, really. There's so much. But yeah, I want to really say thank you for that, because that was really insightful. So just a couple of personal questions for you. Just for anybody that maybe is coming to Abu Dhabi and they want to know where they need to go. So what's your favorite restaurant in Abu Dhabi?
Oh, is it Al Mayas in ADGM, right next to Nusrat.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's it's a Middle East restaurant, so Al Mayas in ADGM, Abu Dhabi.
Okay, so the next one, how do you spend your weekend? I mean, if you're in Abu Dhabi, for example, how would you spend your weekend? What would you do?
I'm a golfer, so I'll be on the golf course. I'll play paddle, go to the gym. There's lovely gyms in Abu Dhabi. And then you have now, you can go and have a bit of fun at SeaWorld. Cinemas are now kind of a popular thing in the Middle East. So there's lots to do. I mean, yes, it gets a bit hot in the summer. And it is the desert, but to be honest, 90% of the year, it's fine.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
So there's lots to do. I think most people think that there's not much to do in a desert, but trust me, the UAE has made it like there's a lot to do at the weekend.
Yeah. So we are effectively in kind of like the center of the world. So there's a lot of different locations you can fly to. So where's your favorite location? 3 to 4 hours, not more than that.
Well, I'm off to Kenya. I can't really say it's my favorite yet, but think of it this way. I'm 4 hours flight from seeing elephants. If you're into that, you can go to the Maldives in like 3 hours. Again, I haven't been yet.
Turkey, 4 hours.
Turkey, 4 hours. You can go to India, Bangladesh. And these are all beautiful locations. I mean, you have these island locations. Thailand's 5 hours. I know it's a bit extra.
I didn't know that, actually. That's
so it's like, you got lots of options. To be honest, I'm quite bad in terms of going to Asia. I need to do it more. I end up going back to like Europe for the summer. But yes, no, I'm going to say Kenya. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. You're going tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Well, hopefully I'll see you when you get back anyway. We hope this podcast has provided a lot of useful tips and advice and information about what's going on in Abu Dhabi. And I've got something for you, actually. A going away gift,
Okay, good.
I'll pass it on to you now.
I can see it now,
You have to try the waffles. They're awesome. Here you go.
Look at that.
You have to try the waffles. They're very good.
Actually, the scones is what's got me. Being British, it's like strawberry scones. Looks good to me. Well, lovely. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem at all. And look, thank you so much, and really appreciate it. And I hope it was really helpful. And see you on our next episode.